Good morning.
Morning.
Could you start by telling us your name and branch of service?
My name is Vernon Miles, and I was in the United States Army.
And what was your rank when you left service?
I was a lieutenant colonel.
And when did you serve?
I served from 1983 to 2014.
What is your connection to Southwest Virginia?
Um, my wife's from this area, and we were living in Smith, Virginia when I decided to retire. And we looked at several locations to live, but we kept coming back to Southwest Virginia because of the beauty and the hospitality of the people in the area.
How and why did you enter the military?
To me, it wasn't really a question of whether or not I was going to enter the military. I have a father and three brothers who are all in the military, so we just felt it was an obligation for us to serve.
So what was your process? How did you go in?
I went to a small school in Virginia called VMI for a couple of years. Then I decided to enlist because the only thing I ever wanted to do was to fly. So I enlisted, and then I was a warrant officer for several years, and then became a commissioned officer.
Okay. What were some of the jobs that you performed while you were serving?
Primarily, I joined the Army to be in Army aviation, to be a helicopter pilot, and I flew both for conventional and special operations units while I was in. But also, as I went up into ranks and became a commissioned officer, I also became a leader, and I was a platoon leader, company commander, up to battalion command.
Okay. Where were some of the places that you lived while you were in service?
I lived in Central America, all over Europe, and all over Asia.
And how did you stay in touch with your friends and family when you were away from home?
A lot of times it was over telephone, but it depends on where you are. Veterans or military personnel have a way to find answers to problems. And one of the things we did back in the early 1980s, we didn't have telephones, a lot of access telephones down in central Honduras. So while we were up flying, we would call on HF radios to somebody back in the state, a ham operator in the state, who would then call my parents collect, and we had to talk to them over the radio. So you have to say, every time you got done with the sentence, you have to say over, and then the ham operator would then tell my parents, you can speak now, back and forth. So we tried all kinds of methods to stay in touch.
Okay. Could you share with us a memorable experience from your time in military service? It could be serious or lighthearted.
One of the things that I think over my time that represents not the military, but Americans as a whole, was we used to do medical visits. And that would be, we'd load up my aircraft, which was in that case a CH-47 large Chinook, with doctors, nurses, dentists, and vets, pharmacists, and other associated people. And we fly to villages. In the case of Honduras, this was back in the 1980s, where we didn't have GPS or navigation aids. We were flying on maps that said, data not available. So a lot of villages or places we went to, it was the first time they ever seen a helicopter, or first time they ever heard of Americans. And we'd get out there, and it was the first time they would see doctors. You would have some dentists who were pulling teeth, and the locals did not want anesthesia. They didn't want to get shot, so you had to pull teeth out without any anesthesia on them. And then a couple of times we had to fly pregnant women back to Tegucigalpa, the capital, because they needed more medical attention. And actually, we had one or two babies born on the aircraft flying to there.
And finally, what message would you like to pass on to the next generation about military service?
Military service is an honor and a privilege to serve the people of the United States. And it's less than 1% of Americans that actually do that. And you are what we call a strategic corporal. You represent, by your actions or your inactions, all of the people and the policies of the United States. And that's a huge task to do. And we need people who are willing to step up, put the commitment and time in to be in the military, and to be that good ambassador to the rest of the world, because you may be the only American they've ever seen, or maybe the first American that you've ever seen.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.